Hey everyone, welcome to Transformation Time. Every Thursday I host an episode of either Transformation Time or Behind the Scenes. My name is Diana Lizarazo, and today's guest speakers, we have a couple coming on. It will be Melissa and Larry coming on. On Transformation Time, we get to talk about our guest speakers will share with you their personal development journeys. They will get into how they got into real estate, the challenges they've encountered, and what they've learned along the way, and just get to see how they've gone through the process of being a real estate investor, being an entrepreneur. So let's see if, I can see Melissa's on. Perfect. Hi.
Oh.
Hey, Melissa. Hey, Larry. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. So let's just get started with telling the viewers a little bit about yourself. What kind of real estate investors are you? How long have you been doing it for? Anything you'd like to share?
You go ahead. Okay, so we started real estate in 2019. Our first project was a bungalow conversion into an up-down duplex. Since then, we have done some additional projects like flips. We've done some private lending. Right now, we mostly do like Airbnb and I guess like property management.
Yeah, we're currently going through like a tenant turnover right now, so that's what's been keeping us really busy this week.
I think a lot of people are going through tenant turnovers right now.
Yep.
Awesome. So what got you guys even interested in real estate? Like what got you interested in getting into real estate or being like investors?
I think it definitely started off in like Larry was mentioning in 2019, and how it started was actually like my parents kind of had a question about mortgages, so they kind of needed my kind of help with that in regards to like qualifying. So that's how we really got into learning about real estate, because prior to that we had no understanding of what a mortgage was or even buying a home at that point. And then from there we kind of talked to our TD mortgage specialist, kind of getting familiar with that. And I think that was really the beginning. And then we saw an ad on Facebook. I remember it was like Rich Dad Poor Dad. Of course, it's that book. And I just started. And honestly, before Rich Dad Poor Dad, I did not read at all. So it was just the start of our personal development journey, our real estate journey, and really for me reading. So
yeah, I hear you. Actually, that was the same for me. I did not really read. To be honest, I hated reading with a passion. And then like that, once I realized like personal development books, and I was just like, oh my God, now I love reading, which is the weirdest thing. I think if anyone hears me say that, like in the past, like specifically high school, they're like, you're crazy. You hated reading.
that's the thing, right? Like that journey that like where before it's like, man, I can't even recognize myself from before. It's like, yeah.
Mhm. That's amazing. And so from the beginning, were both of you guys very interested in getting into real estate, or did one push the other to get into it? How did that work?
It was mostly her.
Yeah, it was like a lot of me, I guess, because it had a lot to do with like my family. And so it was like more relations with me. And I was like, okay, let's do this. And I kind of just dragged him along, right? Like the reno stuff, or I guess anything that needed detail oriented or reading contracts and reading the fine print. I was like, Larry, read this and let me know if it's all good, and let's just sign it if it's all good. Like, so
Because you're like, I hate reading, so Larry can take care of it.
fine print and I think the legal writing too, where it's just really dry and you're like, you just can't sit there for a long
You like fall asleep one paragraph in, right?
time. Yeah,
Yeah. And so then you're saying that it was so it's actually your parents that they were doing an investment property and you just got involved in it. That's what really got you, like the first thing that got you into it?
So they didn't have an investment property. It was more of like with interest rates and whatnot. Like they were actually like kind of like having some struggling with the holding the mortgage, especially because they were and what. So then that's where they reached out to me because at that point in time I was working a full-time job, so I did have that stable income and I could qualify for lower interest. Oh, we kind of started.
Oh, okay. So it's more the okay, so it's the mortgages that you just got to learn so much about mortgages and then you read Rich Dad Poor Dad and then that kind of like together you're like, I need to get more involved.
Exactly. And really
Awesome.
finances too, like how important it is just to learn about finances and making great decisions.
I think like our actual like, journey into investing in real estate, it started with Keyspire. We went to one of their like their free events and we were like, wow, much. So we attended like the 3-day like weekend program. And that's what kind of gave us the boost to do our first investment property.
Oh, awesome. And so now let's go a little bit more now that you guys are working together and both are interested in investing. How have you guys defined your roles now working together? Like who does what and, how do you guys work together?
We don't. No, I'm just kidding. I think that's definitely something we're still evolving and trying to figure out. I think when we first, or like a few months ago even, like working together, we always listen to other people, how other couples are doing it, because we're trying to figure out, okay, how can we split it? And what we noticed was that, working as a pair, like it's really unique to the type of people, how much time we have, how we work together, like our skills or strengths. So every time I try to like implement, okay, you are going to be the renovations and I'll be the acquisitions. Or then we tried out, okay, you be the sales, I'd be the like finding the funding. We tried out all these different things and we realized afterwards that we both actually have very similar, what is it?
Skills?
Yeah. We have like similar skills. We have similar interests. So we, like both of us, we kind of touch upon each aspect of the process, but we kind of have like a different focus on each part. So for example, like we're both involved in acquisition, but she might be the one who's like engaging with realtors, figuring out how many properties we should be walking through. Whereas I may be like crunching the numbers. And then things like that, like for raising capital, she would be the one engaging like people and I would be presenting the deal, for example.
So I'd definitely be like more of the outreach because of my personality. I kind of just like outreaching, getting to know people, talking to them. And then when it comes to like the substance and getting to the numbers and the structure of it, it's definitely more of a Larry. He could kind of walk it through. He's more logical in that sense to kind of walk through, and he just has that technical background.
We do a little bit differently. Like I think a lot of couples, they have very distinct roles. Like one person would do like almost all of the acquisitions, and then somebody else might do like all of the operations or something like that. I still consider us to be like quite new to real estate, so it really helps for both of us to be involved in all the steps as we learn, and also so we have the support of one another.
Yeah, and I think the way you guys are doing it actually is a great way, right? Because you're using your skills, but in each area like that you get into. So that is important because if one person is doing one thing like that, if for example like that, Larry does the analysis, but he's only working on, let's say, the property and not the property management side. Let's say Melissa might be like doing things and it's not really working out. She's like, wing it, it's okay. And Larry will be like, what mess are you doing over here?
It's just nice to be involved in everything.
It's either it's up or it doesn't get done. You're like, what happened? It's like, oh, just delaying it a bit.
That's funny. And so from the journey you've gone through so far, what changes have you guys seen in yourselves that you've had to do to get where you are now?
Oh man. You want to go? Or...
You can go first. And
so I think a few things, like at least like when we first started, like working with our first contractor, I remember our personalities are very, I would say, soft, on the more softer side. So we were very pushover. Like, this is our first project. We literally listened to the contractor. Whatever he suggested, we're like, yeah, that sounds good. We didn't really know much what was going on. But after working with them and, you know, kind of going through the whole legal process now with them because we overpaid and they never delivered, we realized, oh, we have to firm up. So we started developing much more like firm. I think becoming more firm, working with people, still being friendly, but having that side of like, hey, we need to still get this done by this certain time and making sure it does get done. Otherwise, you know, we're also learning about, okay, like holding back some of the money, not overpaying them, you know, otherwise they just never come back to the job. So that was definitely one of the things that we had to develop.
Yeah.
Just because, yeah.
It's just, yeah, like something for me in particular was like personal development. I wasn't very open to the idea of development. And I think in this real estate journey, like I've noticed that a huge portion of it it's not like what you know, but it's about like overcoming those like objections in your mind. It's all
The
about
barriers, right?
exactly. So that's something that we had to change a lot.
I think another thing too is because we started becoming surrounded by like investors, and as you know, it's like everyone we're around just starts thinking bigger, dreaming bigger. Honestly, some of the things we hear like while talking to others, it's just like, what? That's a thing? Like,
so you can do that?
Like, you could do that? Like, you're thinking like 50 years ahead of time or even 100 years of time? Well, it actually made us realize that like really like do something you really enjoy and just like think bigger. You know, there's more to life, you know, than just, I mean, I worked a 9 to 5, so nothing wrong with 9 to 5s. I love the people and whatnot, but I just didn't find fulfillment in there. And so I actually took, because of like who I surrounded myself with and like, you know, bring the confidence and also like trying to dream bigger, I actually like quit my job earlier this
Oh, congratulations. That's exciting. How long?
what was it, May?
Yeah.
I think, no, April.
How long did you work there?
Oh, I worked there. So I worked there since like university, so 5 years until now. And during that time, I thought I was going to work there 9 to 5 until I'm 65 and then hire and volunteer. And that was my life. Like I was like set for that. So all this real estate journey and meeting all these other investors, I was like, well, I'm going to just take the plunge and, you know, go full time into real estate.
Well, I think the other thing that it is that you don't realize how to say brainwash you are about society, right? Like that. You think I should be getting my 9 to 5 job and I should be complacent with what I have. And it's probably not okay to think bigger, like that's being greedy or like all these things that get put onto us that we think are okay or that's how we should think. And then like that, when you're put with a group of people who start thinking bigger, like you said, or thinking differently, you're just kind of like, this is allowed? Like, should I be doing this? Like, oh my God. So that's great that you guys were able to open up to that and see the possibilities. Because it is like once you get into it, like you start realizing how important it is to be around the right kind of people, right? Because like that, like they start influencing you and you want to have the right influences around you.
Yeah. I love it. Like, you know, I mean, I hope no one in my like previous work is here, but like surrounded by them. Like, so I remember one lady was just counting down the number of months until her retirement. I was like, man, this is sad. Like, we are down like the months of retirement, and it wasn't even a small number. And I was like, at that point, I was like, okay, I need to get out. Like, I need to figure this out. So
That's awesome. And so with all those changes now, and now that you're thinking bigger now, so what kind of changes are you doing in yourselves now to try to achieve those big goals?
I think for one, we've been doing more like coaching, like mentorship in like different areas that we haven't gone before. So things like multifamily or land development, things like that.
Yeah.
What else?
You quit.
So I recently put in my resignation as well for my work.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Congratulations. You guys are both going full time. That's awesome. How's actually, so Melissa can prepare Larry, because I'm sure you felt it, or at least I felt it. How scary was it like to quit and then now be responsible to be making money for like, did you feel that?
I can feel it right now.
You Oh my God, I did not feel it until a week after of actually quitting. Like I was like so busy, like I was like have all my meetings scheduled, like filling up my day. I think I may have done that on purpose. And then the next week it was like depression. Oh my God, what did I do? Like, was this a good idea? Like, this is like I shouldn't have done this, or like every single question was going in my mind.
I should have talked to you during that period because I needed that support. Yeah, I definitely understand. It's like a roller coaster. I remember at the time when we quit, like we were doing a flip project. So that's what kept us busy. I was like, okay, I'm going to quit. I'll just work full time on the flip project. And then just so we could like finish it up quicker. And then I swear, like you mentioned, after 2 weeks of quitting, I was like telling Larry, oh my gosh, what do I do? Where am I going to get money? Like, how are we going to like manage this? Like, I don't know. Like, it was just, it was really scary. But then afterwards, you're like, oh, it's great now. We're good. Oh, we're seeing progress. And then when we were finished the flip project, we're like,
what do we do now?
what do we do now? Like, what's the next project? We didn't have anything lined up. And then we decided to move to Calgary. And then that's another whirlwind. It was just everywhere. So you're right. It's like a up, down.
Yeah, it is a crazy experience. So, and Larry, you're already feeling it, you said, so you're already scared, even though you put the resignation in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a funny feeling. You don't realize it, right? Like that is what you like you quit. I don't know. I was like so I didn't feel it beforehand, but I was so happy. And like even the first week, I was like, this is good, this is amazing, I love it. And then the next week, I don't know, for some reason, then it clicked in. And then I was just like, what the hell did I do? But it was really funny because I remember I was just like, I say to myself, oh my God, should I go back to my job? And then myself's like, are you crazy? You make enough money to sustain. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm like, you can totally tell when your mind like that, like you're so used to the habit of the 9 to 5 in your job and like someone else paying your check, that even your mind will still try to push you to go like you have like go back to your 9 to 5, go back to your 9 to 5. And my other side is just kind of like you make good money, you don't even need that job. Why are you complaining? And it was just very interesting to kind of see that pull of like wanting to go back to the regular routine that I was used to. So be prepared, Larry. I mean, apparently you're already feeling it. So
I think like part of it was just realizing like the type of like career I would be in. It didn't really give me the skills that I wanted for my future. Like I wanted to learn how to like raise money. I wanted to learn to like manage larger projects and stuff. But I felt like it was like the stuff that I was doing was very like focused and detail oriented, and it was almost like the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like you're talking about your job, right? You're talking about your job was that way? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think
So that's, I guess, something you're looking to improve on is like that your like other skills. That's I guess what your goals are now?
Yeah. Yeah. That's for sure. It's just like I want to get into that habit of like working with I guess like more people and not just always like focused on my own. Working on like bigger ideas as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's true too. Like he comes from like an engineering background where it's like a lot of technical work and like isolation by yourself kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing. So
And he's
it
probably
doesn't
the
take
introvert, so
like
naturally we love to be. I'm an introvert, so we naturally love to be on our own, anyways. Is that not right, Larry?
That is absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
I
I
guess
love being an introvert. I love to hide.
it's like to add to be fair, okay. So the thing that we made the decision to for him to quit as well is we're actually gonna switch roles for a bit. So I did it for 6 months, like on my own, kind of figuring things out, property management and whatnot. But I'm actually going back to a 9 to 5. But the reason now is like I have a more of a reason and I chose specifically the place I want to go to. Like I have more of a intentional choice of going back to the 9 to 5 versus like previously it was just like I just need a job. Yeah. So I think that's like also to help us with the stability of the income, because in the end you still need income. Otherwise, I don't know. When you go in survival mode, two people, it might not be the best choice unless you know your personalities can like are very like yeah, exactly, can sustain that. But for us, because we're more of like the process systematic type person and not very like go go go, let's go, like hustle hustle, you know, we decided, hey, let's switch it a bit. So I'm actually going back to a more like the 9 to 5 to keep, you know, to keep the lights on for us. But I'm also building the skills from that 9 to 5, because I know like, okay, I know I want these skills that I'm going to get, and it's going to help me in the real estate realm because it's also in the real estate. So I think that's
awesome. So what kind of job did you get, and what kind of skills are you hoping to get from your job?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to be like an underwriter associate. So I'm going to be helping with underwriting a lot of the deals, burrs, flips, and whatnot. So just improving on my analysis and also being able to network, because they deal with a lot of investors, that I get to like also network a lot with a lot of investors. So it's just like, it helps with building my own skills, and also helps with like, hey, making sure that, you know, we do.
And it's nice because you'll learn how to underwrite so many, because every type of mortgage is so different. So you'll probably become just like so knowledgeable in all the different ways that they do it, because every bank has their own way of underwriting.
Yeah. I think you might know that it's actually I'm going to be part of Calvert.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, awesome. Oh, so it's going to be just, oh no, but they do B lenders too, right? They're because I know them on the private side, right? They just do private lending, or are they also on the A and B lender side?
So I haven't started yet. I'm going to start next week.
So you'll let me know.
Just because we're all on the investor side, so I know that portion, but I'll definitely be learning the other side.
Awesome. So what have been some fears that you've gone through the process, and like what did you learn from it?
Oh man. I think the biggest, like one of the biggest fear for me when I think throughout it all is literally like, how am I going to make money? Like, especially when I quit my job, that was literally like the fear that kept on going in my mind. And I remember someone telling me like, you can't think about survival, because once you start thinking about survival, you're not going to think bigger. You're going to go shrinking into like self-doubt. You're going to go into like, yeah, maybe I should go back to like a stable job, or maybe I need to work on a part-time job or whatnot. But that's not really helping the goal. So it was, how I removed that fear was like, I looked at our portfolio and I was like, okay, these are my expenses, which were fairly low because we also live with Larry's mom right now since we moved to Calgary. So we don't have that living expense. And I also told him, we're not buying a place unless it's a house hacking place, or that it'll cover itself. Otherwise, like we're not taking that extra expense. There's no point. So yeah.
Poor Larry. You see, he's just like, yep. She's making me do this. I saw those eyes.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Just teasing. Go on, what were you saying?
But yeah, like really looking at our portfolio and be like, okay, so we're actually doing property management. We're getting a percentage from them too. And realizing, I just realized that profit can actually cover all my expenses. And that actually gave me the feeling of like, oh, okay, it's not as bad. You know, I actually can cover all my expenses. Even if like I was just doing the property management, it'd be able to cover like my base. So that gave me a good feeling of like, okay, now let's just try to work on the business instead of thinking about always about how am I going to make money? How am I going to survive? What's going to pay like my bills, the groceries, my phone bills. And so that really helped me just figuring out how to just cover that.
Yeah. I think for me, like, I don't know if this is a fear, but I always had this thing about like buying properties ourselves and not working with other people, and also like, doing everything ourselves and not like trying to hire it out. And one thing that like like you asked, like, you know, what changes we're gonna make to move forward. I think this is also very similar in that like we are planning to, you know, do a lot more projects with other people. We're planning to hire out a lot of the, like before we were doing a lot of the contracting work ourselves, and it definitely like it was cheaper, but it costed more time.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just realizing that, you know, in the end, time is pretty valuable, and moving forward, could just begin to work with others and get professionals to do it rather than try to figure it out ourselves.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's good that you guys did it that way because to be honest, I feel like especially with new investors or investors that don't understand like exactly what happened to you guys, right? With like you go in to get renovations, you don't really know the language, you don't really know like how it is to get done. Because I don't think it was really that you were too soft. It's just you had a trust and you're the expert. I don't know what I'm doing, but you know what you're doing because you're the expert. So you know, you just trusted them. Whereas like going through it and doing it yourself obviously helps you guys understand a little bit more, you know, how things work, which is it is very important because I think this happens with a lot of new investors. They'll like that they'll go in be like, oh, I'm just gonna hire someone, and contractors would do the runaround with them, and then they can't really say anything. Even I've had it, even me, that my husband does renovations and I know a good amount, but it was very interesting when we had to hire this person and I had to talk to him. I knew that what he was doing wrong, but he still gave me the runaround. I wasn't actually able to express myself with what the issues were. And he would just do the runaround, and I was just kind of like, "This is the problem." But I'm like, "But if we're gonna play the game of like who's right and wrong and how to explain it," I'm like, I couldn't do it. Luckily, my husband was there where I had to bring him in, and he was the one who like explained and told him and like basically put him in his place. But it is very hard actually, even to find when you get to that point of contractors, to find the right person or the right team that you can trust. And they won't pull like this kind of stuff, you know, where they like even, yeah, because like that, like I know at a high level, I know stuff in renovations just because I'm very involved in my husband's business. Even when we started it 8 years ago, 9 years ago, I know a lot of it, but I can't say I can talk the language 100% like obviously they can, right? And like that was one of the things. Like we got rid of him immediately, and not because of that, but because of so many other issues. But it was just it's interesting. They could do the runarounds, and you know it's hard. But I mean like that. Like I at least knew what was wrong, which is at least a good step like that. Like if you at least know what's wrong, you can kind of stop and nip it in the bud and be just kind of like I'm the client. I want it done this way, and you know that is what it is, kind of a thing, right? At least at that level, it's important to be able to do it at that level where you can at least stop them and just say like, I'm the client. This is what I want. You have to do it this way, you know, at the minimum, right?
That's so true. Like at least being able to identify and then maybe asking someone else, like one of your friends or like for you, your husband and whatnot, or someone that would be able to kind of give you the second opinion, right? To be like,
Mm-hmm.
sound right or that doesn't look right. But for us, it was like literally no friends in real estate at that point, and we just jumped on in. And there too, this contractor was a referral from our realtor, who was using it for a duplex conversion as well. So we actually walked through a property of his, and we're like, oh, okay, he's doing some progress. So that's actually why we decided to go forward with him. But honestly, even if they're a referral, like I do think like, you should still do your due diligence and make sure you're on top of them.
Yeah.
Because
And personality, right? Because it could have been the personality. Maybe, like you said, maybe they did see that you guys are soft and they're like, I can take advantage of them, you know? Like, you never know. Like, maybe some people just don't care, right? But because, like that, it is true. Like, you see a project, it can go so well for one person, and then you go, or you hire them and you're like, what happened? Why aren't you doing this amazing work for me, you know?
it's true. It's true. And we never know what's like going on in their life, right? At that point in time. Like maybe fortunately you hit a bad timing with them and something came up. You know, so
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Any other fears or mindset shifts that you've gone through?
I think like a huge thing that kind of comes back to us like reoccurring like for the past few months, and we had to kind of realize it after discussing about it so many times, coming back to the subject, is like figure out our goal, like figure out our why and our vision. I think, when someone asks us this, we would say one thing, and then next week it'd be totally different.
Yeah.
And I think what we've learned is like we have to like actually take the time, and sometimes it's hard, like especially like if you don't think about this often, it's actually hard to kind of clarify it and figure out what the vision is. But it took us like months of like every weekend to kind of like talk about it and refine it. But what I think is so important to do that is that it gives us direction. It gives us like everything or every decision now that we make, we have to ask ourselves, like, does it align with our goal? Like, will it take us one step further towards our goal? And if it doesn't, then we have to understand, like, is it even worth our time to do this? Like, why are we doing this? So like something that came up, right, recently was like, Larry was thinking of maybe becoming a realtor. He's about to quit his job, and we're like, okay, should you be a realtor? And then we thought about it. We looked at our goals and we're like, okay, it really doesn't align. Like, why are you becoming a realtor? It's just going to spend more of your time.
It's like going around the goal. Just trying to
And I think it takes like forever to get that too.
Alberta than Ontario.
Oh, in Alberta, it's different. It's not as bad.
Yeah.
It's much easier in Alberta. I think in college now, but in Alberta, it's just you type away online.
Yeah, it's an online course, similar to like what Ontario was like, I think 2-3 years ago. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's
so yeah, I find that very true actually about aligning your goals. Because I'm assuming, and I'm just thinking of how it was for me, that when you're starting, I think like you get like that shiny diamond syndrome where it's like every deal looks amazing. You feel like you have to do every deal. And it just like that, like you just like bounce around all over the place. And then I don't know with you, but it was really funny because what I wanted to do at the very beginning, I don't know why I just didn't listen to myself and just continue that because it is exactly what I want to do now. And I found it funny because I went through all these different phases of doing things because it was like that someone would bring me a deal. I'm like, oh my God, I want to be a part of it. And then someone would bring me a deal. Oh my God, it's an amazing deal. I want to be a part of it. And then it was like things that were just like so different. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm just like everywhere. Was it similar like that?
I think 100%. Like, because we weren't clear, like everything someone said, it was like, that sounds amazing. Yes. So actually, the funny thing is we actually have a lot of courses going on. So we signed up for an infill course, a new development course, a suite addition, multifamily course. Like we do Airbnb, we took an Airbnb course. I think that was the thing, because if you don't have a clarity, you're just going to go
do
everywhere.
Exactly. Everything is going to seem really great, especially when it comes up, or when something doesn't come up and you're kind of bored now. You're like, oh, what's the next thing? Like, the next closest thing that you could get a hold of. So, yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. And actually, I'm going to do a shameless plug-in since you're talking about goals. Because if anyone wants to come on, I'm actually having a 5-day challenge, and it's to help you set your goal. Because as Melissa and Larry, how you guys are saying how it's important, I went through the same thing. I realized how important it is. So if anyone who's watching wants to take it, you can go onto my page and you can register. It's free to do it. And yeah, you'll come out like that, like exactly what you guys are saying, right? Like you come out once you have that right goal, you come out like inspired, motivated, charged up to go because it's like, like you just have like that path, that clarity to actually go in the direction that you want. So I was just going to do that shameless plug-in since you guys brought it up though.
You might see me there. Sign up after this,
Awesome. So what about, actually, sorry, let me just check because okay, we're so good. Just making sure I'm not like going way over time over here. So what about, because you kind of spoke about it a little bit, like money mindset. I know you talk a little bit like that, like now you're at least aligning with the right job. But any, like, even just let's say with buying the properties, like going bigger, how does that affect like your money mindset? Like, does it affect it a lot, or you didn't feel very affected by it?
It's definitely a jump from where we currently are. Um, I think it's again a part of it is like the mindset of like just thinking we have to do it ourselves. With a lot of the bigger properties, you almost have to work with others to as in a joint venture where you have to private land or do something like that. Um, so that is definitely like quite scary. I think another thing is like we haven't raised any like significant amount of capital before through our real estate journey. We've done it like here and there for like small things, but I think this will also be like a very big like stepping stone for us.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned, it's a lot to do with like the people as well. Like the bigger you go, the more like people you need involved, right? And I think when you put people that have experience with like let's say raising money or whatnot, you almost feel like less nervous, and you kind of borrow their confidence because you're working with them. You borrow their confidence, their credibility, and once you do one, I think then at that point you feel confident. You're like, wow, I just raised all of that. You know, like I could definitely do it again for another project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm just guessing because it's similar to me that the whole partnering with people is probably like from family that you never borrow from people and it's bad and all this stuff. Is that like a family thing or cultural thing? Or why are you scared to partner? Like what do you feel like why is it scary to partner?
I think for us, a few folds. I think one of them is we're control freaks.
Yeah.
I think that's one, like, we bring in a partner, like at least in our mind, we're thinking, oh my goodness, like they're gonna ask us a lot of questions. I mean, we don't mind answering questions, but sometimes they're like making sure, like, oh, you know, why are you doing this, or like, oh, that's not a good move, or like they're almost telling you what to do, and you're like, wait, like, do you have the experience? So like we have that control part. That's like one thing. I think I don't know. What's it?
I think it's more about just like knowing you can do it on your own. I feel like that's not as big of a I don't know desire anymore. It's just like I just want to accomplish something bigger and take a smaller piece of that pie than to have 100% of nothing. So.
But I mean, what was the thing though before? Why weren't you wanting to partner? And why were you wanting to do it on your own?
I don't know.
Maybe. I think it's also the scare of like for us, like I don't know, we like to make sure like, hey, we want to be confident in what we do first before partnering up with someone because it is someone else's money. I think that's a huge thing because that feeling of like, hey, I don't want to lose someone else's money like at all. So we need to be confident in the process. Like, so for us to be confident, generally it's like we either have to partner up with someone that has the knowledge or we have to have done it ourselves. So like for us, like a duplex conversion, it's pretty comfortable because we went through the whole process. We even did some of the renovations ourselves. And then we did a flip by ourselves too. So that we're pretty confident in when it comes to that and also analyzing the deal. But when something new, you don't, like, at least for us, we almost feel like we don't want to use someone else's money yet until we at least done it ourselves, went through the whole process, understand it. And then we're saying, okay, we're confident now to actually use someone else's money through this. Because the last thing we want to do is go back to someone and say like, hey, we need more money, or like, hey, it's actually not going to work out. And that, so
I hear you. Actually, it's funny. I did very similar things too. I did same thing. Anything that I did in strategies, like that private lending, flipping or borrowing, it was all do it alone. We did the same thing. Like do it. So it's like at least if you're doing the mistakes, it's you're doing it with your own money and not doing it with other people's money. Because it is, you feel that pressure, right? You want to like, you say that this is what's going to happen. And obviously it's always projections. But if it goes like terribly, you just feel like, you'll feel so bad if it's like, oh, actually it didn't end up working out.
Exactly, especially with like our what's going on in the economy right now, it's pretty like kind of everywhere. So we just want to make sure like, hey, even if we're using someone else's money, it's like there's so much buffer that like the likelihood is hopefully less. But there's always like a chance, right? There's always risk.
Yeah, but at least like that, like you've done the proof of concept. So it's like at least you know what you're getting yourself into. And then it's just really about like understand, like trying to learn as much about the market as you can to make sure the numbers are right. But as long as you've done it, at least you know how things work, which is I think the most important part of it.
Yeah, I think like something else we're learning too, like right now is like we're starting to invest in other people's deals with our money. Like we're investing in other people's deals and we're using that to learn the process. So if we're not finding deals right now to put our capital in and to like kind of do it ourselves, we're gonna put our money into someone else that has like experience and kind of learn from that and piggy off from that to learn the process, get the everything.
Oops, sorry.
So that's something we're definitely trying to work on as well, just to like learn the process. Okay? You don't always have to do it yourself. You could, you know, put your money in someone else's deal and learn it that way as well. Or you partner with someone that has experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, both are really good ways of doing it because that like that, and I mean obviously telling them because sometimes I remember I did that once that I did a private lend. They wanted to partner with me in future deals, and I was like, okay, let's do the private lend, but treat me like a partner and let's do it and let's see how it works and understand how we would actually work together if we were to do a partnership. Just because that's like the way I do things. But it was just like a nice way to like that. You at least figure out how it is. Like, fine, we're not really partners, but like treat me as a partner and let's see how it work and see what we would get done or whatever.
That's awesome. And they were open, I'm guessing, like they were super open to allowing that.
Yeah, well, they wanted to partner with me, and so I just proposed to them. I'm like, let's do the first one, a private lend, and just see how you work. Let's see how you run your numbers, you do your analysis and stuff, and how it works. I'm like, and then we'll just like, but don't treat me like a private lender because as a private lender, I don't normally get to see a lot of what happens, right? Because all it is just the money coming in.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, when you're lending to friends, or I should say like real estate friends, I mean, because I have relationships with them, I do get to hear a little bit more because I've even helped some of them. I know they're going through some tough times and even I was like helping them sell the house and stuff. So there's some where I do, but in general, like others, I don't even know what's going on. So in that specific one, we were talking like, okay, just treat me like as a partner, and they were like, yeah, they're like perfect, and yeah, they liked it.
I like that. I like that how it's like, you know, because when you partner up with someone, it's like almost a marriage, man. Like I think a lot of people don't realize that. Like when you partner up, they're like, yeah, let's just partner up and everything, and then you don't realize it's a long play. So I love how it's like, hey, let's just do the short-term thing first, proof of concept it. And then we'll go from there to figure out whether we're going to partner together or not. So,
Yeah, it takes time because it's true because it's like you have to go through the whole courting period with a partner, you know, like let's grab a coffee, see how it's going, you know, what's your personality like? Am I going to get along with you? Because I'm like, once we're doing that flip and we start pissing each other off, that's, you know what I mean? Like things go wrong and people start getting angry and fights may happen. It's like, can we actually handle it, you know?
that's so true. That's so true.
Yeah. All my partnerships have been with flips, so it's like you're used to it. It's like trying to calm people down, like, don't worry, we're gonna get through this. Let's break up the fight, guys. It's okay.
Like people management too, right? It's like, okay,
It
you know,
is.
like emotions too, because it's
Yeah. Especially when you're hitting crunch times, right? Like we had one flip, it was a luxury one where it was go, go, go. We're behind schedule. Obviously, my husband was working on it. And we literally had to tell our partner, or I told him, I was like, do not talk to him Monday to Fridays. Like the poor guy's exhausted. He's working 12 hours a day. I was like, anything, like you want to go see the property or something, weekends. You want to talk to him, weekends. I'm like, during the week, like it was like, no communication because it was just like super stressed, not sleeping enough, trying to get everything done. And so it's like that, like sometimes you got like, you know, like that. He was just like, yeah, no problem. Because it was like that. We're in crunch time. And it's just like poor Giancarlo is like falling apart, trying to make sure we meet our deadlines, you know?
I like
And so it's just like you need the communication. And to be honest, I mean, even to give you guys some advice on partnerships that I've learned is having different layers actually is really good too. Like how it does in the corporate world, you know, it's like you have your workers and then you have like managers and you go up in levels. That's
Mhm.
actually how we structure ourselves. So Giancarlo's like front facing. And then when issues come up, because I'm like never at the property and stuff, I'm usually out of the situation. It's really good for the fact of, for example, like if you have problems with neighbors, because Giancarlo's job is to be like at peace and good with everyone, right? And so he can't be like tough with a neighbor for something. So that's where I come in. If he's like, if things are just getting like too much and they're giving problems because they don't see, and maybe they start, let's say, if they were to get into a fight or something, like some kind of conflict comes in, then I come in to kind of like stop it and talk to them and try to resolve it because it's like Giancarlo's there every day. The last thing I need is like friction between houses because they're going to obviously then make our flips unbearable, right? They may start trying to call the city. Like they'll, you know, when you get into bad situations, like people get really, you know, like they'll try to cause problems with whatever they can. I've heard other people have things happen. So we kind of structure things and like that. Like I keep a distance from the project. I don't really get that involved. And so that I can at least be the mediator if things happen, or even same thing, even with the partners, like I'm more of like the mediator, making sure like organizing and scheduling like high level. And then I come in if I'm needed to give like that fresh like face of like if things are getting tense, I'm not really in it that much so that I can kind of ease things down. Because you know it's like when you're not in it, like they have to like kind of retell you the whole story and then you can kind of calm them down because they
It's true.
have to because you don't know what's going on. I know what's going on, but I mean like you play like you don't know what's going on, and so they kind of have to tell you the whole story and stuff, and it helps like
I like that.
reduce the tension.
I like that because like usually when they're mad, it's usually because of the person. So it's like if you remove him and you put
Tempo.
you, it's almost,
Yeah.
oh,
Because
okay.
usually it's at the person, right? Like they see your face and they just get pissed off. You know, it's just like your face pisses them off, right? So it's like, okay, I'll come in, new face, and they're just like, okay, let me see if I can deal with this person and figure it out with them, right? Like I don't know, I learned that from the corporate world. So I brought that into like how we run our real estate too, because I really enjoyed that way of doing things. Tips for you guys.
I was like,
That's good
yeah,
advice.
good cop, bad cop, good cop, right?
Yeah.
Right, cop, right? Like,
Yeah, it's that too. It's that too. Actually, it is kind of like good cop, bad cop. Because like that, like Giancarlo has to kind of keep the peace as much as possible. So sometimes I just have to go into make myself like yeah, like the bad cop, so that he can continue and things are like at peace with him. With like yeah, like they're not like there's no conflict between neighbors and stuff.
that's a great point. I think that's something we could talk about afterwards. You know, like we're always evolving, right? Always evolving how we work together. You know, still trying to learn. So,
Awesome. So last and final question for you guys. What is your big like goal, your 5-year plan, like that big goal that you guys are looking to achieve?
that's it.
You say.
You say.
So we have a monetary goal for 5 years, where we want to acquire 10 million worth of real estate assets. Um, I think that was just it was like working backwards from the cash flow that we can get from that asset. It made sense to us.
Yeah, like it was like 10 million of worth of assets, like how much we the portion. So
Yeah.
if we're doing 50-50, it'd be 20 million then at that point. And like Larry was mentioning, we reversed engineered it to kind of come up with like, okay, this is how much we're actually going to make per month.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Like the reason why we care about like the net worth is because like some of our like one of our plans is to eventually stop acquiring more properties and just kind of get them paid down over a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So like setting a number of assets goal, and then having that like 25 years to get them paid off was something that was desirable for us.
Yeah, I think for us it's not about like how many doors we want. Like we don't want like 3,000 doors. Like honestly, I'm like thinking about all the tenants. I'm like, oh gee, like, oh, you know what? Like I don't want to like have to go walk over. No, like I think we want like enough properties, and then we have like future kind of goals where it's like, hey, we actually want to like for Larry like build homes, build affordable homes. For me, like I want to like start other businesses. My mom, I want to start a cafe business with her because she's a baker, and we have so many other things we want to do as well. So like,
awesome. So real estate is like to help you kind of get the income level there to be able to pursue other things that you're interested in.
Exactly.
I think real estate is just it's very easy to like see a path forward with real estate because you're just doing more or less the same thing, and you're just doing more of it. With a lot of other businesses, sometimes it's hard to like imagine it like getting bigger. So real estate,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's really good for us.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on. It was so fun to get to know you guys, to hear about all the exciting things that are going on.
Thank you so much for inviting us, by the way,
No problem.
A pleasure.
Yeah.
Awesome. So see everyone. Bye, guys. See everyone at the next event. Bye.